Hello and welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Giordano, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Dean Poulopoulos, the owner and founder of Overland N'Explore, an overland outfitter near Athens. In this episode, Dean and I touch on practicalities of overlanding Greece, including budget, route, where to camp, and how great the coffee is. We'll also touch on Dean's history and background, how he got into overlanding, and all things Greece. I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks for tuning in.
One of the age-old problems of vehicle-dependent adventure travel is something that you probably don't think about very often. Your insurance. If you put a lot of money into your truck, chances are that those modifications aren't covered by your current insurance provider. That's why we built Shredder. We fill the gap between what your car insurance company thinks your truck is worth and what it's worth to you. You don't have to switch. Your regular insurance insures the stock stuff, and we insure the cool gear. Head to Treader.com to check out our easy 5-minute quote process to see if Treader is the solution for you.
Hello and welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Giordano, and today I'm joined by Dean Poulopoulos from Overland N'Explore, and he is here with me today in Greece at your shop near Athens.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me at your podcast. It's really nice to be here because it's funny, like we've been listening to your podcast for like years, and it's a really nice opportunity to be here with you and have this chat.
What are some of your favorite episodes you've listened to?
That's a hard one. It's like asking somebody what's your favorite song. I don't think that there is an answer to it. Yeah.
Fair.
So thank you for being here. And it's a long way, like where you came from, and it's great that you drove all the way down south to Greece. So my name is Dean Poulopoulos. Friends and family just call me Dean for obvious reasons. And we started Overland N'Explore back in 2019 as a social media page, just for friends and other people of the overlanding community to share our experiences in our travel and chat with people about different overlanding topics and stuff. But everything started back in 2015 when we got our first vehicle, which was a 1996 Disco 1. And the reason why we got that is really simple. It was super cheap. And back in 2015, it was really cheap, like less than a rooftop tent. So we got this one and we started doing a few local camping trips with it. And we didn't even have a ground tent at the moment. We were sleeping inside. Then we tried to switch to an actual ground tent because we had lots of stuff inside. Then an awning room, like we went through lots of different setups, and then we finally got our first rooftop tent.
Nice.
Yep, it was a soft shell one, and we spent 4 or 5 years with this tent. And we mostly traveled like around Greece with our Disco because our like main goal of travel was to go as remote as possible and explore new places that I was spending hours in Google Maps trying to find really remote locations that they didn't have any photos of and go and explore them there.
And this was with your girlfriend?
Always, yeah. She was into it because she loves nature, so that really worked out because I'm not sure if I believe I would end up doing overlanding, but it made my life way easier going together. And so the main thing is that like I've always loved exploring the outdoors. I think this goes back to my childhood because I had like a crazy obsession with wildlife when I was young, and I wanted to be an Nat Geo explorer. So yeah, that was like my first dream back when I was 6 years old. And combine that with a few like trips we did to a few national forests with my father, and he was teaching me how to read paper maps. So then my second obsession with maps kind of grew somewhere around there.
And this was in Greece?
Yeah. It was actually, we were going for every weekend on Skiñas National Forest, which is like 5 minutes from here.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I was young, so I was smaller, so that national park looked huge to me back then. And you know, then it was when I started getting into maps and loving the whole thing. 4x4s were always around at the time because my mother had one, our friends had one. My mother was was involved with horse training and horse riding and stuff, so we did have like lots of 4x4s lying around. My first cross was the second gen Ford Bronco and the Blazer K5 for some reason that they're not popular at all in Greece. I don't know how I managed to get them. A friend of ours had one, so it was like the first 4x4 that I kind of stepped into. So fast forward 2015, got a disco, but unfortunately our work schedule was not allowing us to travel. And we were mainly like backpacking and doing trips with rental 4x4s in Wales, Scotland, Spain, the Canary Islands and stuff. But we were not able to leave on a bigger expedition with our vehicle for a bigger trip. Mm-hmm.
And what were you doing at work at that time?
So yeah, I was working for a company on the strategy and growth department around the maritime sector, which was something that I was not enjoying.
Right.
Yeah, for lots of reasons. And the thing is that I was cutting myself spending lots of hours, even at work, looking into overlanding stories, listening to overland podcasts. And then I'm like, you're spending a lot of time into this, so you should try to turn this into your actual job. And 2024 was the year that I decided that that was it. And I have to do something with overlanding. And so at the time we had just bought our new vehicle, new, like with 400,000 kilometers in it, our Disco 2. And we were looking for a tent. We had a used Alucab at the time, but it was really old and we wanted to go into something like brand new. And we were looking into Felden Shelter at the time, but it was not imported in Europe. And I was like, that's it. That's
the one.
That's the one. That's how we start getting into overlanding as a job. So I reached out to Beth and Joel from New Zealand, and I'm like, we want to get a tent for our disco, but it would be great if we could also be your European distributors. And they were like super happy with that. We had like few chats, and they're great because I love companies that have like an actual face in front of them, and you don't speak like with the marketing manager, and
Yes.
you speak like with the actual person that has designed the tent. And that's how we started. We started building this old place here. This used to be a horse stable actually, and we spent 1 year with friends and some professionals, of course, turning this into our base. And we got our first shipment of tents in November from New Zealand and started working in the overland market, I guess, which is great. Like, I love it. It doesn't feel like work. I feel like I'm cheating everybody because it doesn't feel like work at all.
That is the perfect place to be. And
Yeah.
the space. So for the listeners that aren't watching on YouTube, the space is really cool. Like you were saying, it used to be a barn.
Yeah.
And now you've outfitted it with, there are 2 tents inside, the Felden Shelter tents, and the branding of your shop and business and pictures of your travels. And what else am I seeing? A California license plate and some other fun details in here. So it's a really great space.
Yeah, we try to bring like brands that we have used ourselves because our main goal is to provide stuff that we have experience with. So that's why we have, apart from Felden Shelter, right, Red Arc Electronics and Frontrunner and AIB, because it's things that we have actually used and we can recommend, because our main goal is to, as I said before, keep a face in front of the company and like to be able to chat with our customers throughout our own experiences regarding a product or something. As I told you, when we first started, Overland N'Explore was a social media page, uploading travels and trying to inspire other people and get inspired by other people. So we still want to do that. I mean, it practically turned into a company, but we still want to keep that character to the page. And so we're trying to bring over the overlanding community in Greece and in Europe around this place. So we do have like a small campfire outside with a few benches, and we do host some Sunday campfire events that we call them, which is like practically like a meetup for overlanders and campers to gather here, have a chat, have a coffee, and discuss about new projects, new travels, their own experiences, make friends around the community. Because it's great. I mean, the overlanding community is growing in Europe, and it's a great thing to meet people that have the same interests that you do. And it's great to have, like, we know we have a Sunday within the month that we're gonna gather and we're gonna exchange stories, and it's great.
Yeah. I love that. I love bringing community together like that. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you too about the European overland market, because I think there's some differences between the North American market and Europe, and I'm so fascinated by the differences, because I'm not sure that people would think, oh, when I'm in Europe, I can get Max Tracks in Greece, or I can get a Felden Shelter tent in Greece. I mean, maybe they think that they can, but there are some products here that are familiar to us for sure from coming from North America.
Right, yeah. I think the reason why these two markets they're not completely different, but they do have some different points, is that overlanding, I'm not going to put a term into overlanding because like a lot of people have their own terms about it, but there are some major differences in traveling in the US than traveling in Europe.
Yes.
So, for example, like, because of the weather in Northern Europe, lots of people go for vans or vehicles that they can live inside of them, and not that many rooftop tents and such stuff. While in Southern Europe, it's, I guess, the opposite. Like, we do get lots of rooftop tents around, not that many vans compared to Northern Europe. So it's like different dynamics from the US market. And I think that the main difference between the US and European market is that we don't have lots of producers here of overlanding gear. Like, we do have some big ones and lots of others that are smaller, but most of the stuff are imported either from the US or Australia or South Africa.
Right.
Yeah. While in the US, it's crazy. There's so many companies that can do lots of custom works on your vehicle, and you do have like lots of options. Mm-hmm. Plus the fact that Europe is, I would say the options for vehicles in Europe, it's much narrower than the one in the US. I mean, if you look into Toyota, you can either get the Land Cruiser or the Hilux. While in the US, you can get the Land Cruiser, the Tacoma, the Tundra, the 4Runner. You've got options. Like, so that's why I believe there are more companies making like accessories there, because you do have like more options to work on. But I think it's kind of growing in Europe as well. And like, our goal here is to bring some brands that are popular outside of Europe as well, just like Felden Shelter. They were already popular in New Zealand and Australia and Japan. And yeah, it's a good thing to have options. So you can get most of the US made products in Europe, I think, as well. Yeah.
I'm wondering about your main client base. Like, are you seeing kind of overlanding have an uptick in Greece, or are your customers mostly throughout all of Europe?
Yeah, I think it's mainly customers throughout Europe. It's too early because like we had like our first shipment landed here in November.
Right.
So we do have lots of Greek customers, and now I think since the beginning of 2025 we started working with Italy, Belgium, Sweden as well. So yeah, we do get customers all around Europe. I think that the Land Rover community also helped about this because we started out with Land Rovers. So I think that most of our European customers reached out to us because of that. So it's fun. But in Greece as well, I think that the whole overlanding thing started, mostly after COVID. There were lots of people before COVID as well, but the boom was like during the quarantines. And now the thing is that I see lots of people looking for quality gear, and I was not expecting that to have such a big reach increase, because you can get for sure cheaper tents and fallen shelters, but I see lots of people looking for quality, and the thing that I like is that people are looking for someone to chat with and talk about their plans and stuff. So that's what I love. I mean, I can have a customer here and we can keep on chatting for 2 hours, and then we practically I don't know. I have lots of customers calling their friends after that.
Yeah.
And that was my goal. I want to see somebody as someone who has a project, and you cannot serve a project with 1 hour. You should sit down and chat with a guy, and because everybody has different needs and different type of traveling. So you cannot serve one customer the same way you would serve another one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that I also love that kind of dynamics in the overlanding industry. Every customer is a new project, and because he has a different type of trip that he wants to do. They camp in a completely different way that we are. We have lots of people asking for diesel heaters. We've never used one.
Right.
So it's it's fun. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Tell me, why did you choose your latest Disco?
All right.
And why is it a great vehicle for overlanding in Greece?
All right. I think in Europe in general, I'll tell you why. So let's go back in 2015, because the Disco 2 came from Disco 1. So the first vehicle that we wanted to kit out for overlanding was our Disco 1. It was a 1996 model, and we got it because it was cheap. So that was the main reason behind it. So at the time, I had no idea about 4x4s. I haven't heard of the infamous reliability of Land Rovers. And I was just that looks nice, and yeah, it's cheap, so let's go for it. And I'm really happy that we did get a Disco 1, because we've learned a lot on that vehicle, because it was really badly maintained, and it made us do a lot of work on it, and that was a good thing. And then we kept that vehicle for 8 years, because I get attached on things. So the Disco was one of the things that was really attached to it, because we had lots of memories with it, and I didn't want to let it go. And I was looking into Land Cruisers, because there were lots of moments with the Disco 1 that I'm when we get back from this trip, I'm gonna get a Toyota. And I was frustrated about lots of stuff. But then we drove back, and I was we had some really good time in that vehicle, so maybe I'm not gonna sell it this year. So we're thinking about what vehicle we should go next for lots of time, and then Disco 2s are not really popular in Greece, especially the ones that are diesel, the TD5 engine, because diesels were banned, I think, up to 2007 in Greece, so you couldn't get them that easily. So I saw these, there was a guy who was selling the Disco 2, and by the time that I saw the Disco 2 being listed there, I'm I gotta call this guy. And it was a TD5, it was imported from Italy, and I called him, I'm I'm gonna come and get your car. And I got it. I had both Discos at the same time. I sold the D1 and then started working on the D2, because my main point was to have a diesel vehicle.
Right.
And the reason why I went from a D1 to a D2, because they're really similar. The D2 is a bit bigger than the Disco 1, So we needed just a bit more space. We couldn't fit our fridge in the Disco one, which was funny. We had to fold down our seats in order to get it, but it fits on the D2. And it was a platform that we knew. I think that was the main idea behind going for a Disco 2. It was so similar with a D1, and we were like, okay, so it's mostly the same mechanical components. It's the same platform, so we can have lots of, our drawer system can somehow be modified and fit there. We knew what worked and what didn't on the D1, so we were going prepared for the D2 in a way, because that we also changed our setup in the D2 for 3 or 4 times to make it work. And I think that was the main reason. We were familiar with the platform, and we said that we're not going to focus into building something completely new, and we're going to focus on traveling more. So yeah, that was the plan. And
so the foundation of experience that you had from the first round,
I'd say yes,
you used into the second.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And then what are some of the main modifications that you've made to this build?
So I didn't want to do lots of modifications because
Right.
I think that if you keep it as stock as possible up to a point that you make it more capable, but not do some crazy work on it and then you are somewhere, not in your own country and something breaks down and then you cannot find the guy who fabricated it to make it work.
Yeah.
So we just got some 32s mud terrains and they wouldn't fit. So I had to change the suspension. That's why we went with some Oldman Emu nitrocharger suspension, just 1.5 inch lift to get the tires to fit. And that was it with the major modifications on the vehicle. It also has a remap, an engine remap, which is quite popular on TD5s. And then we just said that we don't want to delete the second row seats because this is also my daily driver,
right?
So I wanted to have them there. So we just went with a really simple drawer system that we built ourselves, a fridge, and we used the same roof rack that we had on the D1. So
Perfect.
This worked perfectly. Even the bumper was on our D1, slightly modified it to fit the D2, but it was so good transitioning from the one car to the other. Everything was super smooth. The thing that made a huge difference on D2 were the gullwing windows.
Yes, nice.
That I was like, you don't need them until I installed them, and I'm like, that's one of my favorite mods in the vehicle because when you are on a station wagon and not on a pickup, it's like playing Tetris with how things are gonna go on a trip. And these two gullwings made a huge difference because there is a huge dead space lying behind those windows. And we just built a shelf behind it. And we got all of our torches, pegs, some towels, things that you use around camp. And it's really easy accessible and you don't have to dig inside the vehicle in order to get them. I think that the gullwings and the table on the rear door are our favorite modifications because you don't have to take your table out and set it up. You just fold it down from your rear door. You can have a real quick meal and then keep going. I think that the modifications were kept into a minimum, just things that we needed to be there, and because on a D1 we were carrying so much stuff that we didn't need.
This seems to be a recurring theme, everybody that I talk to. And I get it because we were there too at the beginning.
Right, yeah.
It's just the natural progression of things, right?
Yeah.
You're just overpacking, and then the more time you spend on the road, the more you realize what you actually need, and you start to whittle it down.
Exactly, yeah.
And a special thanks to Adrenaline Industries for their support of this week's podcast. Adrenaline is making some of the most exceptional expedition campers on the market, and they are made right here in the USA. Judd and his team of skilled craftsmen are building overland trucks based on heavy-duty American truck platforms, integrating comfortable composite living modules with high-clearance four-wheel drive. These trucks feature 43-inch tires, robust bumpers, winches, and a conversion to single rear wheels. For their expedition trucks, they are building on extreme duty industrial four-wheel drives like the BAE with 4 or 6-wheel drive, reserve payload capacity, and third world serviceability. All of this compatibility comes with one-on-one customer support and in-the-field training. Others take you far. Adrenaline Industries will take you further. Thanks again, Adrenaline Industries, for making this podcast possible.
For example, we had 2 more extra jerry cans on a swing away arm on the rear bumper, and we didn't really need those, because like if you travel around Europe, you can get your tanks refilled almost everywhere, and we did have like a 40-liter tank on the footwell of the rear of the passengers, and we were like, these 2 jerry cans are super heavy, and
Right.
the whole arm, the swing away arm, was super heavy, so we removed this one out. And then the other thing that it is quite heavy and you don't really pay a lot of attention to it is clothing.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Oh man, nobody needs to know how much weight we're carrying.
Yeah, nobody does. But it's funny because they take lots of space. So now we used to take 2 huge travel bags with us. So they were taking the whole rear seats of the disco. And now we said, okay, we have to do something about clothing. And as you travel, I think that you see like, you have lots of different t-shirts in case you need one. And then you said like, yeah, we don't need those.
Yes.
And now we just pack them in 2 front runner boxes. And
Nice.
It's fine. And it's great because they're stackable and then they're out of the way.
I think too, sometimes you're traveling multi-season, so you need rain jacket, puffy jacket, layers, pants,
Yeah, then
you need something for everything, and actually the weight does add up really quickly.
exactly.
But some of it you just kind of need. So.
And they're heavy, especially if you're going on,
Yeah.
on a winter trip.
Yes,
You can have some heavy clothes with you.
totally.
Yeah. So I think these are the main modifications. Going back to your question on the disco, like we do have a winch because we travel alone with my girlfriend, and the funny thing is that we haven't used it when we are out on our own because we don't go chasing for tough trucks.
Sure.
We want to avoid those. Recovery boards, we use them all the time, leveling the vehicle, and yes,
Use them the other day.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
when
actually.
we were in the snow and mud, so
Yeah,
it came
yeah.
in handy.
Yeah. So, yeah, as you said, we're trying to carry as less stuff as possible. And food, I mean, I don't think that you have to overpack for months. You can grab stuff as you go, but it still depends on where you're heading.
Right. I think, Greece has been really easy for us to find a lot of really, really
Greece
good food.
is really easy.
Which I would like to talk about as well. Greek food, we'll get there.
All right.
But yeah, it's been really easy to find really great food everywhere here. So that hasn't been an issue at all.
Yep.
I would like to ask you about some of the practical things that people need to know about if they're going to come to Greece on a trip or overland, whether they're driving in or maybe they're flying in and renting. Do you know of any outfits that rent overland vehicles in Greece at the moment?
There was one. I'm not sure if it's still active. There's lots of companies renting vans, actually, with pop-up roofs and stuff.
Nice. And vans are so practical for Europe. I think the more we travel around in Europe, the more we realize that a van is incredibly practical.
Yeah. It is. So I think you can even get like a pop-up van from Hertz or like Avis or a company that rents vehicles. That's also one of our projects for the future, to work with a company. There are a few renting out Gladiators and Hiluxes, and we want to offer people to get a tent there, that people who are flying in Greece.
Yes.
So back to your question about Greece, I think that Greece is a really easy place to overland because everything is accessible. Like you can get water from most places, and you can actually refill your camper, your 4x4, whatever you have, almost everywhere with.
Go ahead.
And
where were the spots? Because I've been seeing different things.
Right.
Like on the side of the road, there are water taps, or you could where do you usually fill up with water?
All right. So what I usually do is either go to petrol stations to refill my water tanks, or if you just go to a tavern and ask them for water, they're probably gonna say, it's okay, just grab that hose and refill your tank.
Right.
And in most places in Greece, apart from a few islands, I'd say, the water is also drinkable. So like almost throughout Greece. So it's really easy to get your tanks refilled in that way. And then again, of course, camper stops.
Yeah.
That are like all around the country, and you can stop there, refill if you have some grey water to dispose of. And then the thing is that Greece is in a crossroads of Asia and Europe. So I think that lots of people go through Greece heading to Asia.
Right.
But not a lot of people do actually spend time in Greece. Or if they do, they just stick into places that iOverlander or Park for Night recommend. And I get it, because you're in a different country and you just rely on stuff that you know.
And there are so many spots.
There are
like almost
so many.
Too many?
Yeah,
like
I'd
getting
say,
burnt out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Spots.
I'd say there are too many spots. So going back to my obsession with maps,
Yes.
It's if you just go on Google Maps and scroll around the country, there are so many remote beaches and mountain spots and everything that you can head there, and there are like official dirt roads that go there. You don't have to go like off-roading.
This is such a good point to bring up too, because I think like Europe, like North America, or like Europe generally, I mean, Greece, has become really popular with overlanders and van lifers, and some of the spots on Park for Night that we've been seeing that are absolutely stunning,
Right.
Are no longer viable for overnighting. And we've seen that. We saw that a lot on the Peloponnese recently. And they've just been shut down because there are too many people camping there or not respecting them.
Right.
So I love your idea, even if you're a visitor in a country, to kind of go look at Google Maps and see what you can find, and maybe spread the load out a little bit. Because, there were some points that we looked at and we were excited about, but they don't allow camping anymore overnight. So
Right. Yeah.
trying to spread things out a little bit, go to some other places that aren't as busy or well known is always good.
I think it's part of the adventure of your trip. Like, the good thing is that Greece is super safe. We never had an issue that we felt uncomfortable with for the past 10 years that we've been doing that. We don't have any dangerous animals around. So
maybe some foxes. That's
maybe some dangerous foxes. And I mean, even if you go up in the mountains, yes, we do have wolves and bears, but they're not gonna come into your camp, and like, except if you leave your steak outside for overnight, because you are full and you didn't know what to do with. But it's relatively safe, I'd say. No, super safe.
That's been our experience as well.
So it might be nice to get out of your iOverlander comfort zone and try to explore a bit. I'm saying this because we do use iOverlander a lot, but for intermediate stops when we are on a trip, like our main goal usually is that we have found this epic looking spot on Google Maps, and we want to go and see how it actually looks like in real life. And that's like why we travel. That's we want to explore new stuff, and that's why we avoid popular places that are recommended by other people. And apart, like, okay, somebody might give you a super nice insight that this place is fantastic and you should go, then okay, we'll definitely go. But I think it's part of the fun and part of the exploration to go and find out some spots for yourself. And it's really easy to do so in Greece. So the other thing that it's really nice about this place is that despite being a really small country, like compared to, I don't know, France, the US or Canada or something like that, we do have lots of different landscapes. So it's really, really interesting. Greece is one of the most mountainous countries in Europe. So I know that lots of people know Greece for islands and beaches. Yeah, we do have lots of those as well, but we do have lots of mountains which are super nice to explore, and really high altitudes, and we do get lots of snow, as you found out yourself last week. Yeah. And it's really nice because you can be like on an icy landscape with minus 10 degrees, and then you can drive for 40 minutes and be right next to the beach.
Yes.
Which is crazy, and it's really nice. And you do have lots of different places to explore, like northern Greece is mainly best for exploring the mountains and huge national parks, lots of forest area, but at the same time you have Halkidiki, which is some of the, I'm gonna say some of the best beaches in Greece. But the thing with Halkidiki is that it is super popular, and if I would recommend somebody to go there, I think it would be from October up until May, because otherwise it gets like really crowded.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Peloponnese, which is like a huge island, mountain island, I would say.
Yes.
Because it's really mountainous, and all around it has this huge coastline, especially in the west, which it has a huge sandy coastline, which I would say people should avoid driving on sand, because we do have lots of turtle nests around there. But you do have like dirt roads on top of that, inside the dunes and stuff, that you can probably go. And then down south we do have like lots of nice beaches like Voidokilya, Elafonisos, the ones that I also talked to you guys about, which are super nice, super clear waters. Again, these places can get really crowded during summer. So apart, like people who come in Greece for tourism, like to see some really popular spots and stuff, for overlanders, I think the best time to be in Greece would be mid-September up until late October.
Okay.
And then late April up until early June.
Nice.
I think these are the best.
Those are the sweet spots.
The sweet spots in visiting Greece.
Good to know. It's February, so
yeah, like
we came a little bit too early.
Yeah, maybe that's why it was. I mean, you saw lots of snow up in the mountains.
Yeah.
So
and lots of storms.
Yeah,
it's still beautiful,
exactly.
but I was like romanticizing being in Greece, and like
I
I want to
know.
swim in the ocean and sunbathe and like do work on the beach. Anyways, but that's not how life is. So it's all good, but I like that. Those windows are good to know.
Right.
And to avoid like big crowds during the summer, but then also avoiding kind of the tumultuous weather in the down season. So
exactly as you say. And then you've got the islands. So the islands, I think it's a category on its own because we do have lots of thousands of islands around, and hundreds of them are inhabited. I'm not going to say any numbers now, so yeah, but you can Google it. They are so diverse. I mean, if you go down to Crete, you've got palm tree forests and huge canyons and really nice beaches, super remote places. I think Crete is a really amazing place to go and explore. And then lots of islands scattered around the Aegean, which are mainly dry, but lots of them also have some green area in the middle, even waterfalls, like the island of Andros is really cool to explore. And in Andros, I think there is a really nice dirt road which you can follow and circumnavigate the island, which is super cool. Up in the north, Limnos is also a really, really cool place to go because they do have a desert there, one of the few in Europe. Yeah, which is super nice. You're not allowed to drive there as well, but yeah, you can go and see the place. And lots of interesting stuff. Yeah, I think the islands somebody could do like a whole thing on the islands themselves because you can do ferry hopping from island to island.
Okay.
And it's great. And then there are the islands of the Ionian Sea, which it's the complete opposite from the ones in Aegean. So you got like lots of greenery and nice beaches with white sand and yeah, lots of options.
That sounds so nice.
Yeah.
Do you know kind of like what the price point is of taking all these ferries
right
with your vehicle?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you the one that we had, and I think it's one of the most expensive ones for Crete.
Okay.
So and this is a quote for a 110 Defender with a rooftop tent. So it was about 400 euros, so it was not cheap.
Round trip.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But these do change from year to year. It's crazy. And it used to be way cheaper in the past. And for some reason this year everything skyrocketed. But there are much cheaper options like the island of Andros, which is really close to Athens.
Okay.
And I think it's an hour with a ferry to go there. And if I'm not mistaken, it's 50 euros the ticket of you and your vehicle to go there, and then 50 euros come back.
Gotcha.
Something like that.
Okay. And I guess there's always the option to leave your vehicle somewhere safe and then take a ferry and just go somewhere where you don't need to bring your vehicle just do that for a few days or for a week or something and then come back. I do get attached to my vehicle, so I get it.
All of us, I think it's part of the Overlanding
right
thing. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to sell my vehicle for 8 years.
It happens.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about driving in Greece. So you have toll roads, non-toll roads, really good system of road infrastructure. I would say like highways and freeways and stuff like that. We found them to be really good if you're on a paid toll road. And then driving etiquette, like Greek drivers. What kind of driving should you expect if you're in Greece?
Right. Okay. So I think, as you said, the major like motorways that usually pay tolls in order to travel through are well maintained, I'd say, most of them, and most of them also have lighting. Apart from heading up north, I think there's a huge section there which don't have light.
Okay. And they're quite wide, like a lot wider than we have been used to coming this way.
3 to 4 lanes. Most of them are 3 lanes. Yeah. I think this is the fastest and the easiest way to travel around Greece if you're willing to pay the toll.
Yes, because sometimes you're like, oh, I don't want to pay the toll, but I'll do this non-toll road, but then it's an extra few hours, and then you're paying that money in fuel anyway, and it's a balance depending on what your goals are.
But then again, if you don't take the major motorway and you go through those smaller roads, you might end up into places that you wouldn't.
Yes.
Which is also nice.
Yes.
But the thing with these roads is that they are small most of the times, and they are a couple of hours. Like if you taking the motorway, or you say, no, I'm not going to pay the toll and I'm going to go through the old route, it might be 2 hours more added to your trip. So it's a lot. And I wouldn't say that Greek drivers are dangerous, but they are not like the ones in Northern Europe. I think I could compare us mostly to Italians. I'd say Southern Italians, or the way people... Yeah, I think Southern Italy is really comparable to how Greeks drive.
What are some of the characteristics that
All right,
we should look out for?
They never use turning signals.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a thing that was not built into Greek cars. And people can stop like in the middle of the road because they
Yes.
want to talk with somebody who's on the other side of the road.
Yes.
Yeah, I had this today driving here.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that these are the most common. Oh, and unfortunately, nobody respects the speed limits.
Right.
Yeah. So people go fast. So
We've had people flashing their lights at us recently.
I always do it. I always have that thing because I have a sticker on my rear window which says "We are no rush. Please, carefully pass by."
So when they're oncoming,
Oncoming.
they've been flashing lights, but I don't know what that means.
Oh yeah, that means that there's probably a police check down the road.
Okay, so the universal sign of a cop is nearby. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think that was it.
Well, that's nice.
Or if they just liked your vehicle and they're like, "Hey, cool car."
Nice. Oh,
Yeah.
yay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, that's great. So, let's talk about one thing that I've noticed here. Obviously, like food, I love. But in Greece, I think in the West, we all think souvlaki, and we all think tzatziki, and we all think
All right.
hero, and we
Yeah.
all think. But one thing that really has surprised me is the dedication to the coffee culture here. Like, it is
Oh right.
amazing. Every single day.
I mean, I'm already...
You have coffee. I had a coffee before this, and we see people on the street with coffee and at work with coffee. And I did not know about the Freddo cappuccino, which we can talk about.
Right.
But it's like everybody always has some sort of coffee in their hand, and there are coffee shops everywhere.
They are everywhere.
Everywhere, and
Yeah.
really good coffee. I would say like comparable to.
I'm not sure if it was a rumor, but I remember some people saying that the government was subsidizing coffee shops. I'm not sure
They
if it's a
look
rumor. So, yeah.
really nice. Like, there are really fancy ones
Uh-huh.
here that I've like so many in every single town, and we've had no issue finding good coffee everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
So I love it, but
There is a huge coffee culture, I think, in Greece. I consider the world to be divided into two: tea and coffee. So yeah, I think Greece is way in the coffee side of the things, and as you said, there are lots of coffee shops everywhere, and we do like our coffee, and especially during summer months. I know some people who also do it during winter, but we do have this Freddo cappuccino and Freddo espresso, which is practically iced coffee, I would say.
yeah,
Yes and not, but
it's
yeah.
like I can't remember exactly how it's made because I think some's made with instant coffee or freeze dried, and then some is made with espresso.
They are usually made with espresso.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I must have read something bad on the internet. And then the
there
frothed milk
is-
on top with ice.
Right, yeah, exactly. There is some instant coffee that you can... I mean, what I usually do is I do some instant coffee, I shake it, and then put some ice into it.
Yes.
And that's like the first coffee of the day.
Gotcha.
So I'm not gonna take it when I'm at a coffee shop. It's just an easy thing to do. I usually do it around camp because it's really easy to do it. You just have a shaker with you and just shake it, put some ice into it, and then you've got some real nice, refreshing coffee, I'd say.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with the foam. Like
Oh,
the
right.
milk foam is it's like
it's nice.
like so
And there are lots
thick,
of
not thick, but like a lot of it.
It's
and then
it's
coffee
a lot. Yeah, it's heavy.
with ice.
Yeah, and there are lots of different coffee shops that they're doing it on a different way. So there are others who like put the milk and the foam before and the coffee on top.
Oh.
Yeah, that's also nice. So there are like lots of different variations, I would say, with how people do their coffee. I know there's it has been for quite a few years now that they do put some kind of cream in Freddo cappuccino instead of milk. But yeah, lots of coffee ideas around.
So is the Freddo espresso, it's just espresso with ice?
Right, no milk and
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
popular.
Espresso with ice.
You'll
yeah.
see them everywhere. It's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Can you share with us a few good phrases that we should know in Greek if we're going to come to Greece? Like
Right.
hello or good day, thank you, like a few basic ones.
Okay, so first of all, I don't think that you're gonna have an issue coming into Greece and knowing 0 Greek words, because most of the people here speak English. But it would be super nice if you would say like kalimera to somebody, who means like, it practically translates as good day. And
Can you say that for the entire day, or does it stop at like noon or
No,
something?
it stops at noon and then it's
Okay.
yeah,
I knew it.
You did, yeah. And then it turns into kalispera after noon.
Okay. Kalimera and Kalispera.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Which means good evening. And then if you know ευχαριστώ, which means thank you, I think you're set.
Can you say
Yeah.
that again?
Ευχαριστώ.
Ευχαριστώ. That's
Right.
like thank you.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, it's thank
And
you.
then the other one
then,
I've heard is yasis. That's like hello.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, yasas is like a hello.
Yasis.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool.
Or adio is goodbye. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right.
That's going to be really helpful for people, because sometimes you're like, what's the difference between yasis and kalimera? Or, you know, it's nice to have a local perspective
You can go
on
with
that.
a yasas or yasu. Yasas is more polite for like the whole day.
Okay.
So if you don't want to learn kalimera, go with yasas and it's fine.
Yasis, yasis, yasis.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
And
That's
yamas is cheers. So yeah,
Oh, yamas.
yeah.
Cheers. That's great.
Right.
What are some things that sort of like piss off the locals that travelers do here? Like, what are some things to try to avoid
Okay.
to irritate people that we probably don't know that we're doing?
Right. I'm trying to think of something that maybe I did and irritated somebody. But they're usually don't get irritated easily,
Right.
I'd say.
I guess just like the usual, because I've seen this on the Park for a Night app a lot. Just be
trusses.
respectful of
Right, yeah.
your surroundings. Don't
Exactly.
throw trash. We've actually been picking up trash pretty much everywhere we go and take it out with you. Like, even if it's somebody else's,
Right.
it doesn't
yeah.
matter. Like, if you're walking on a beach, pick up the trash. Don't
Exactly.
leave your own trash. Dispose of your black water and gray water properly. Don't camp on somebody's property. You know, I think that gets a little bit weird.
Like, there's not most of the areas here are public, so
Perfect.
it's really easy to go and stop somewhere. I think that, yeah, as you said, the main thing that might irritate somebody would be to throw trash, or maybe drive somewhere where you're not supposed to. Like, I don't know, you just want to test your vehicle and go through a hill that it's in a national forest and you're not allowed to drive there, or go through a lake, which is like a protected area.
Yikes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just common sense.
Right. Just I think common sense can get you around the world, I think. Yeah.
That's well said.
Yeah.
Very well said. Being from Greece, what do you want the world to know about Greece?
Okay, so I think they already know souvlaki, so I'm gonna cross that out. And I think that sticking into the overlanding theme, it would be nice to know that Greece is a place that can offer lots of different landscapes, and the people here are super friendly, and that it's an easy place to start overlanding. I think if somebody wants to get into overlanding, Greece is like a really, really nice example, because most of the place is mapped, and you're not gonna get into a really, really remote area that you're gonna have a breakdown and you're not gonna, you'll be in real danger. So I think it's really a safe place to start, experimenting with overlanding around here. And even for people who've been traveling for years, it's a really nice area because it combines lots of ancient history around. So everywhere you go, you can see, some kind of a temple or something, which is really nice. I mean, you can even organize a trip around Greece, an overlanding trip around Greece, visiting like ancient sites.
Yes.
And it can take you all over the place.
Yeah. And I will say, in low season, a lot of the sites are 50% off.
Yeah.
So we've been going and paying a few euros each
Right.
to go and see some of these sites that are more than double that in high season, which has been a real pleasure. Yeah.
Yep, it is. I think, that I wanted to point out that Greece is a really nice overlanding destination. Yeah, because you do have lots of stuff to do around. And if you want to go explore the beaches, go down to the Peloponnese, travel around it's not an island, but travel around this place. And you can have like lots of different beaches from sandy ones to rocky ones. And then you can camp right next to a cliff and you have some great view. And then you just drive for an hour and you are up in the mountains. So I think that's really cool. And the islands, I think they are really overlooked for overlanding. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can spend some time around here and not just have it as a transaction point into going to Asia.
Yeah, I understand what you mean for sure. And I was gonna say too, like being on the Peloponnese recently, I felt like that place you could spend a lot of time because there are all these little roads offshooting everywhere and countless beaches, and almost taking one section of the Peloponnese and spending quite a bit of time there would even be great. I felt like it was even a rush for us.
Yeah,
because it's big and
think the Peloponnese
mountainous.
Overlanding
Right?
hotspot in Greece.
Yeah.
You do get everything. You get mountains, coasts. You can do a lot of stuff there, and you can spend a lot of time there. For us, it's definitely our favorite place to go because we are in Athens. It's super close to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we drive like maximum 5 hours, and we can be at the southest point of the place. So there's lots of options to do there. And you can spend some time, as
Definitely.
you said.
Yeah. I wish we had more time. We would spend more time
and better
there.
weather.
And better weather.
Yeah.
Better weather would be good.
Yeah. Right.
That's great. Thank you for that. I would like to know, what is a favorite trip that you've done? Maybe like your most favorite trip of all time, if there is one.
Yeah, I think one just popped up in my mind instantly. And I will say it was our first trip with a rooftop tent. So maybe it was not like the best trip because it was the Peloponnese. It was the west to a really nice beach called Yanniskari, which is a really nice sandy cove. And we were super excited because we had a rooftop tent and we wanted to go there and test it out. And the reason why this trip just is right there at the top of the list, I have another one just popping up and
you can say two.
Yeah, okay, because it was in the back and it was saying to me like I'm also here. So so let's stick with the first one. So the first one was my favorite because as we were driving down there, I could feel something weird in my steering, and I'm like, something is not going on, something bad is going on here. And 10 minutes before we reached our destination, I turned the wheel and the wheel bearing decided to snap. Yeah. I've never seen a wheel bearing being so red. We had the leak and then the whole thing just heated up, and it was our first breakdown on a trip. And Yeah, I had this mixed feeling of being like frustrated because we really wanted to go there and camp, and then I spent like 3 days in a hotel waiting for the part to be delivered and then to get it installed and go back on the road again. But it is one of my most memorable trips because things happen when you travel, and it was our first experience with breaking down on the road. And it was cool because it was a really nice learning curve for us, because we were like, things can go wrong, but it's still okay, because we spent 2 days in a city that we wouldn't explore otherwise.
Right.
And it was fine. It had some great food. And yeah, I think that's one of my most memorable trips, I would say. But one of my favorite trips were in the Evia Island. So it's central towards the northern part of the island. So we found this little beach on Google Maps, and we said that this one looks really cool, and we wanted to go there. And we went there 28th of July, so full high season. And I was expecting maybe we will find a few people around. And we go there. We do like a 30 minutes dirt road, and I'm like thinking, okay, probably we're gonna be there alone. And then we crossed like a small river, and I'm like, chances are good of being there alone. And when we reached that beach, it was perfect. One of the clearest water I've seen so far.
Ooh.
It was super cool. And you had the forest going down to the beach, so it was perfect. And the small river also going down to the sea, and the only ones being there was a couple with a Hilux from Germany and a rooftop tent.
Nice.
And I'm like, perfect scenario. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's we spent some really good time there. Yeah.
I will say too, like, to be fair, we were here earlier last year in high season.
Right.
And we found a beach as well, and we were there alone one night, and it was in high season. So I think the more difficult the approach, the more likely you are to be there alone, which is such a good thing to know.
That's a rule of thumb.
If you're here, if you're here in Greece in high season, because some people don't have a choice, the more difficult the approach.
Right.
If you have 4x4, you're probably set.
And I'm not talking about places that you need 35s and lockers in order to get there.
Totally.
Right. It's just a long dirt road, and people are going to avoid this.
Yes.
Because we've been on a trip on the southern part of Evia 2 months ago, and we just stumbled upon a beach which it had like a 50 minutes dirt road to get there. And again, we were alone, and it was super cool. It was really beautiful, and we loved it. So I think you don't have to go to a really difficult off-road track in order to get there. That's the best thing with Greece. You just have dirt roads that people just don't go because it's rocky, corrugated, and maybe people want to avoid it. And yeah, I think that's a basic rule of thumb. If you are here for some reason during high season, just go into Google Maps and try to find somewhere that they don't have photos posted, or it looks really remote, and it's gonna work. Most probably it's gonna work.
Yep. And you will love it.
Right. Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Yes. I'm glad we did get a little piece of Greece last time we were here in the summer, because it was pretty magical swimming in the water. And it's like 35 degrees.
Right. Yeah.
And
it was
nice.
So bad that now you had this kind of weather, but it's February.
All good. It's okay.
Right.
We had a great adventure.
Right. Up in the mountains. Yeah. It was fun.
It was fun. But a lot of people don't know that Greece has ski hills, and you guys get snow at high elevations.
Lots of ski resorts.
So,
yeah.
It's beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
What is your favorite book?
All right. So we have it here.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's The Overland's Handbook by Chris Scott. And it was the book that I kept on reading whenever I go on long flights with airplanes.
Oh, awesome.
Right,
Nice.
yeah, because it's like basics of overlanding, from choosing a vehicle to weight distribution to packing, up to how to plan your trip, international trip through Africa, South America, wherever you. But it's a really, really nice book, and it was a funny story of how I got it, because it was not sold in Europe at the time. And we had a friend over in Georgia in the US, and I called her, and she was coming for Christmas back in Greece, and I'm like, I need something for you. And it's like, what? I need that book. So yeah, that's how we got it. But it's really nice because it has like lots of stuff in there. I mean, if you are a beginner into overlanding and want to look into some basic principles, it's good to know. It even has some basic electrical knowledge in it, so it's great.
Super resource. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a really nice resource to keep with you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is next for you?
Right. So I was waiting for that question because I always like
get excited about the future.
Excited about the future. Yeah. So company-wise, we are getting a second workshop ready to be able to create a few of our own products, like storage solutions, storage systems, a couple of mold panels that go into different vehicles. Because as I've told you before, I think that we need more local producers in Europe as well. So that's the plan now. We are just figuring out the right machinery to do it. And we also want to create like an overlanding spot here for people to, when they are in Athens, they can come here, get a part. We want to have like a small like service station for vehicles that might want to do like an oil change or replace a part. And now what we're looking into is also having like a small facility with shower and where you can wash your clothes and stuff. So like a spot.
Love it.
For overlanders. And I think that's like the main things. And of course, we're building the Falcon family in Europe. So that's our main goal for the next few years. And we are going to be at Allrad Adventure show in June. So that's like our main event of the year, because I think it's a great opportunity to get to know people around the overlanding community of Europe and internationally, because it's a really big show. So that's with all the company stuff. And now regarding traveling, going to that show in Germany, we want to combine it with traveling around the Dolomites and the Alps, which is great. And then again, we have lots of ideas. Like we're still looking into where we're gonna head next September. We either gonna go east or towards Spain. So this is, I like the fact that nothing is like fixed.
Yeah.
And it's all out there, and we are trying to make it work. And of course, our big trip that I also told you about is we want to ship our vehicle over to the US and do a round trip around there as well. As like, I don't know, I want to do it with a disco because of sentimental reasons.
Of course.
So that's the plan for probably next year. Yeah, something
Great.
like that.
Well, I better let you go so you can start doing some more Google Maps research for all of those things.
Right, yeah.
But thank you, Dean, so much for being on the Overland Journal podcast.
Thank you very much for having me here.
It's been so great.
Yeah, it was great.
And thank you so much for all the tips on Greece, and I hope this has made...
I hope it helps somebody out there.
Exactly.
That's the goal, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully somebody will find it easy to travel to Greece and overland. And I look forward to coming back and heading to some islands.
Exactly,
so,
you should do that.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to the Overland Journal podcast listeners for tuning in to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you next time. Good.